I think we can start. Hello, everyone. Once again, lovely to see so many people joining the session today. That's fantastic. Great. And thank you, everyone, that you made the time to join us today. Just a few words from my side. I'm Jan at Sortify, leading our sales department. And I will help Flo and Nicolas a little bit overseeing the chat and being present for any kind of questions. So just a few words regarding the housekeeping. You're all set on mute and camera off. We'll change this later for our Q&A session. But until then, please use the chat. If you have any questions, we will watch it closely and try to pick up all of your questions and see if we can answer them during the session. Otherwise, as I said, we will have some time later for a Q&A. And please beware, we will record the session and we'll, of course, share the recording plus a couple of insights later on via email. And with that, yeah, I'm happy to have Nicolas here and Flo, of course, and handing over to you, Flo.
Yes, thank you very much, Jan, and a very warm welcome to everybody, also the ones that joined a bit later. And first of all, welcome, Nicolas. It's fantastic to have you again, I have to say. We can talk about this a bit in a second.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So, briefly introduction, who is here today? So as mentioned, having Nicolas is really fantastic because Nicolas is leading the assessment center and development center for Deloitte when they're offering assessment center, development center for their clients. Nicolas, I'm not sure if you're allowed to say this. So how many assessment centers are you doing per year, or what would you say, how many assessment centers have you been part of in your whole career?
Oh, wow. That was not on the script. No. So first, I am responsible for the assessment center for clients in Luxembourg. In Luxembourg right now, over the past 6 years, I have been supporting, then doing, then leading the department. On my side, I have delivered something like 40 to 50 assessment centers. But my role in here is really about the business perspective of the assessment centers. So at Deloitte Luxembourg, we have assessors that have been doing it for years, that are probably beyond 300 assessment centers delivered. So they have been, we have been in the assessment center market for more than a decade. Me on my side, I have taken the responsibility to make it grow, to leverage on technology, to leverage on new ways of delivering this experience, to make it purposeful for our clients, but also for what's coming. And speaking about new generation, I'm speaking about new expectations from candidates, from organizations, and how we can always have our assessors equipped with the best certification, with the best technologies to go beyond what is expected on the market. So that's what I do.
Yeah, fantastic. So already seeing here that there's not only the delivery part, but also how will the future of assessment centers also within Deloitte or what you offer to your clients will look like. Yeah? And that is, as we understood, the big part of your business. And in the preparation call for today, and Nicolas joined us already as a panelist and speaker at our Sortify Connect Day earlier this year. And we learned that you made it from ice skater to assessor. Yeah, so yes. I think that's a fantastic title. So maybe next time we choose this for our webinar. For today, we have this title or the question. is AI the end of assessment centers or the beginning of a new era in talent diagnostics? And before we open the floor for your questions, and please, as Jan said, use the chat, use the F&A Q&A section, type in your questions. We try to answer them all during the session today. We will have a Q&A session at the end where we also unmute you, and then you can hand in all your questions. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Can you see the screen? Yes. Okay,
yes,
thumbs up. Perfect.
Yes.
So that's the title of today. And we decided to make a question mark. Yeah. Since we have Nicolas here, if it would be a pure Sortify webinar, maybe there would not be a question mark at the end of assessment centers. But that is exactly what we would like to discuss today with you. What can we expect today, or what is the idea to explore together? So if AI is making assessment centers more accessible to everyone, what happens to traditional assessment centers? One question that we would like to address. If AI can accelerate maybe decision making, do we still need these multi-day assessment centers? And if AI can predict success better, how does the human assessor roles evolve? And what does it mean also for the business that Nicolas is leading at Deloitte? I think there will be a lot of interesting discussion points. But the question is, why do we get to this point? Yeah? Why are we here, and why, from our side, we like to challenge organizations, also like to challenge Nicolas and his team, talking about, is AI really the end of assessment centers? Yeah. Maybe you can use the chat and type in who of you is already using AI for selecting people for diagnostic parts, and who is using classic methods like interviews, like assessment centers. We will have a closer look to it in a second. So make use of the chat. Already type in who's using AI or who's not using AI until now. Okay. So while you're typing, to give you a little overview, yeah. So we wrote a white paper in summer this year. We are more than happy to share it later on with you. And we took some of the studies that we used. We used a lot of meta-analysis of the whole diagnostic scene. And what we see is that mostly commonly used selection methods listed. Ammonite et al. Did this analysis for Germany, and Van Ideking did an international study about this. And what we see is quite clear. Have a look at the applicant documents, is what almost every company is doing. Yes. We see still a lot of unstructured interviews. Yeah, there's classical, get to know you call, or let's meet for a coffee and double check if someone is fitting or not. And we see that a bit more than a third of the companies reported that they are using assessment centers. And also then seeing, for example, that a quarter of the companies is using personality tests, ability tests, etc. Yeah. For everyone who's new with Sorti, 2 minutes about what and why we believe that AI is really challenging the status quo of classical assessment centers. Within Sortify, we developed AI-based diagnostic tools, from selecting people to developing people, how to build teams with it, assessing leaders with a leadership assessment, or analyzing the whole organizational culture. Today, it's quite clear that we focus on the first part of this chain, how to assess people or how to analyze people on individual level for selection or promotion reasons. That is the classical way where you use normally also assessment center, development centers. And to give you an idea how Sortify is working, we are using established psychometrical scales, like the Big Five, talking about entrepreneurial capital, going back to Fred Lucen's psychological capital. So these resources that are developable and high correlates for entrepreneurial success, career success, leadership success. And also looking to the so-called counterproductive behavioral tendencies. On the scientific side, we rely here on the so-called dark triad from Delroy Paulos. We talk about self-centeredness, strategic manipulation, and excitement seeking. And here we know from the plenty meta studies that are out there that this is a good predictor for risk. So at one point in combination, and that it's very important, in combination with the other dimensions, you can really identify counterproductive behavioral tendencies. And that is something also checking in later on this topic, maybe with Nicolas, because that is from our experience extremely hard to spot also in classical assessment centers. To have an overview, what we measure, as mentioned, a Big Five as kind of the gold standard for personality diagnostics. Entrepreneurial capital as meable, developable. So that is something what is quite interesting also when you onboard people, how to develop maybe psychological resources, and the counterproductive tendencies. And the interesting thing from our side, or where we believe that we bring another value to the table, is that we measure not only with self-assessment scales, like established self-assessment tools where you put your item. It's quite clear that they underlie a certain kind of bias, social desirability bias, especially that you answer in a way that is very accepted. And that is also something what we see in classical assessment situations, that you always have to expect that someone presents themselves in a way to increase the chance to get a job. So I experienced one person in my whole career interviewing where it was quite clear, okay, this person has to be there for this interview, but don't want a job. Normally you expect that people behave in a way that they increase the chance to get this job. And therefore we have these Sortify results, and they rely on text analysis. So what we are using is a structured interview where we collect open text answers of candidates, answering, for example, how does the perfect team look like for you? Or why do you invest your energy and time into this job? So questions that you normally ask also in selection processes, context specific questions. And based on these questions, we need 350 words. We can come up with all these dimensions that you normally also measure with this classical psychometric scales. And then we report the AI perspective. So the text is analyzed by AI, by natural language processing, kind of the technology that we know all from ChatGPT until now with our own AI algorithms. So, and then we can come up with a different perspective. So a classical multi-method approach, multi-method, multi-trade approach that you normally also see in classical assessment centers. And there you see then kind of differences, for example, where you can anticipate a very tactical answering structure, or where you see, for example, that there's a big potential for this person, etc. And that brings us to the point to really ask the question, is it still the right thing to do assessment centers? And I mentioned this before. We wrote this white paper and crunched some of the biggest studies for this, and we come to the point when we look to these criteria, kind of what is really the predictive validity of these methods, and that's really based on all the studies that you find here. One of the biggest ones is from Sackett et al. and also from Van Ideking. And the interesting thing is, I don't want to discuss too much about numbers here, yeah, but to bring it to the table, what we see is that especially compared to what you have to bring to the table, or how much effort it takes, also cost-wise, time-wise, assessment centers and the predictive validity, we talk about 0.29, yeah. Looking to structured interviews, looking to work samples. And now the interesting part is, and again, that's not studies from our side, yeah. And the science that is analyzing at the moment AI-based assessments, that is so fast growing because the technology is developing so fast. We already see similar results or even better results for AI-based diagnostic than for classical assessment centers. Yeah. Here we talk about there are some factors that you have to take into consideration. So really using established psychometric scales, using it in a way that it's ethically correct. Yeah. But here we see already kind of a hypothesis why we came up with this title for this webinar, to challenge a bit the status quo. Yeah. And one point that is also kind of obvious, what we found in the literature, is that especially that not only assessment center, but most traditional selection processes or selection methods really reward visibility or favor extroverts compared to introverts. Yeah? So if you think about your own situations or your own experiences being in interviews, being in assessment centers, it's quite clear that you look for people who present themselves in a very strong way, very confident, be visible. Yeah? And that is something what we can also have a look in our discussion later on. Why AI can overcome this problem. Yeah. So to sum it up, yeah, why we believe with Sortify that we can replace, and we formulated a bit more provocative for this webinar today, why we believe we can replace traditional assessment centers or parts of traditional assessment centers. Yeah, because we believe that AI is valid enough. Yeah. To replace parts of these assessment centers, yeah, with greater objectivity because it's complete automated, with more scalability, and at the end of the day, to make the process a bit fairer. Yeah, and with this, I'm more than happy to start the conversation with Nicola and to dive into discussions. If there are already questions, more than happy to drop them. Nicola, that's from your perspective, talking about assessment centers, talking about the changes that you observe in the market. So what are your observations at the moment?
So there are three phenomena, I think, that are happening for us for the assessment center. The first one is the fact that we are more and more discussing with our clients about the notion of trust. How can we trust this candidate? How we can build this emotional connection? How a good fit is this candidate, not just for the position, but as a good support for the N+1 and a good manager for the people below. So we are not only speaking about pure skills to assess anymore. We are assessing them, of course, but there is always this part of the conversation where we go to is this candidate a good profile for the personality of the N+1, for the people that are in the team. And that's very interesting because on our side, when we are assessing people doing the business case, the role plays, the psychometric test, always also discussing beforehand with the hiring manager, like what this candidate should look like for you in terms of trust, in terms of delivery, of course, but also in terms of current situation in your company, in your team. And this is something where today standard AI will probably not be sufficient alone to answer this question. Because data, if you have not trained the hiring manager on this, if your hiring manager has not been doing those assessment centers before as a candidate or as a hiring manager, they will need this human touch of, can we trust this person coming? A second area is that psychometric tests and AI in general today are perceived as complementary. We want to seek for the things we cannot see as humans, or things that we would spend a lot of times discovering, where AI will spend only seconds. However, today we don't really have yet this magical tool that tells you this one will stay with you for years, will be your support, will grow this way in the company, and where us as assessors, we can already during our debriefing see what type of potential we have foreseen for the candidates, while remaining within the scope of the skill assessment and the requirements from our clients. Finally, the third things we observe is that we used to, before my time, spend sometimes 3 days assessment centers or 2 days assessment center. Then it became 1 day assessment center, and today we speak about half-day assessment center. People are looking for the same result, spending less time, and we justify it. And I say we, because if I was my client, I would also spend a minimum of time and spend a minimum of euros on this to have the same quality with minimum time. And this is where AI also can be a good tool, because you are going to be able to assess some parts that before you would have been needing days in minutes. But this, once again, coming back to my first point, this idea of trust, this idea of positioning, this idea of personality compared to the people the person will work with, is something that today our clients are still looking for when it comes to assessment centers with us.
Yeah, maybe one point that that you mentioned is quite interesting. So, what is it? What companies are looking for at the moment? What is what you really focus during your assessments? And here, just to bring it back into the mind of everyone, beginning of the year, the World Economic Forum published the Future of Jobs report. Yeah, and they came up with a list of what are the core skills or future skills in 2025 and for the upcoming years. And the interesting thing is, if you look for the first for the ones that were mentioned most, yeah, I know this study was discussed, also very controversial, who was asked, etc. But it gives kind of a good indication at the end of the day. And what is quite interesting, if you have a look at this, yeah, from the first 8, yeah, we talk about, let's say, very psychological resources, or they call it skills. Yeah, resilience, flexibility, agility. That is something what we can measure, yeah, with our tools. So everything what is pink here is exactly what we can measure with our tool, as you said, Nicolas, within minutes. Yeah, so. And that is something what I think is quite interesting. Also, what you described. Yeah. So, where do you focus at the moment on in your assessment centers? What is it? What you look for most?
On our side, so I will link it to what you said, that extravert people are more favored than introverts, to link it to what we are looking for. Today, what we are looking for in an assessment center is a range of competencies that we select with our clients, of course, but we are also looking for the position of this candidate within the current organization. So we are going to have this idea of, okay, we want to assess 6, 7, 8 skills. And for each skills, we are going to define a level. We're going to say, okay, is it experienced, advanced, experts? Then we're going to look at the situation with the hiring manager. So are we focusing, are we living a strong transformation? Is a strong transformation coming? You as a hiring manager, do you want someone that takes the decision on a daily basis? Do you want someone that comes to you for those decisions? So what we are looking for is really not just a candidate, but this missing puzzle piece that you cannot see directly with the candidate most of the time if you don't do this day, when you don't put them in a situation where they need to solve a huge business case, when they need to act as an N+1 during a role play, or when they are debriefing about the link between the competencies and the past experience. And so this is what we are looking for. And if I link into the extrovert introvert, it's true that most of the time you are going to do the assessment day, and extrovert people have this tendency, because they want to create this connection with you, because they are really easygoing, to really go in the flow of the assessment. So when they are challenged, they look happy to be challenged. When they are going to explain a story, a narrative, they are going to put emotions and energy in it. But actually, the reality is that, for example, if I take Deloitte, we always have introvert and an extrovert assessor. We always debrief in between the exercises to really see the difference between the first glimpse, so what we perceived, then see the difference right after the exercise, and then we have another debriefing like 2 or 3 or 4 days after the assessment to prepare the report and see the result, if we feel the same way. And this is our way to make sure that we have been focusing on the right profile, no matter the type of personality this person had, for example.
And so how do you use AI already now for in your business?
That's a good question. So right now, we are in a very exploratory phase, I would say. We are building a process where we can use AI to, for example, generate the report, to do the personality test, to really make our assessor focus on things AI cannot focus. It's a process building, so it's not there yet. We are not using it yet with our clients, but our objective is really that we leverage during the coming months on those new tools to really have a more linear assessment center process, to have shorter assessment center day, focusing really on these elements of trust, personality, fit for the position, and making sure that we spend time on things AI cannot spend time today. So that's our objective. And for this, we will leverage on numerous tools, but of course, the security of our client comes first. So we will use tools where we can ensure GDPR compliance, we can ensure the proper archiving, making sure that if we decide to remove the data after the assessment center, we are sure that those data are not going kept somewhere. So it's a long way here, but this is our objective.
Yeah, and I can say that you are very careful of this and make sure that providers really follow this. Yeah, so and that is definitely something what we also see from our clients. What brings us in a position as a European AI company. What makes it much easier for clients and partners to onboard European solutions that are in line with the EU AI Act, making sure that we really follow these processes, having human in loops, knowing where the training data is coming from, etc. So that is exactly what we see. And the one point that you mentioned, building more kind of these linear, shorter assessments, that is what we perceive at the moment also from our clients. So that they really step away from, especially from, let's say, mid-level positions, to run really these 1 day or also half-day assessments. So we see that they really use our technology for every level as a base layer, to say, okay, for everyone, we can analyze in a very valid, reliable, objective way the personality, these psychological resources that we're measuring with the entrepreneurial capital, but also get an idea about these counterproductive tendencies. So to see if there's maybe a risk, or what do we need in sense of coaching, development structures for the person to be performant. And then building kind of on top. So working with debriefings. We have one big client now that decided to stop going for these classical assessment centers and roll out the analysis plus 1 hour debriefing, and then coming up with the results based on both sources, structured interview plus the diagnostic. And then for top levels, and we have also colleagues here who are in this field, and they can absolutely, I would say, agree on this, that when going to the top levels, like the C levels, etc., that it makes sense to have also some human or some more human interaction, what you mentioned. So maybe to bring the case study, to challenge them a bit more on the different topics. So that is what we see at the moment in the market. What brings organizations to the point that they can afford and scale. That is at the moment a big questions that we ask. Is it scalable within the organization? Is it scalable from entry level to top level to have this diagnostic, this assessment or analysis running? And that is, I would say, really an advantage of AI that we can bring to the table, and then building on these more or shorter assessments. When we discussed the last time, Nicola, I think you mentioned something very interesting, how AI also changes the way in the preparation, building hypothesis stream or individualizing assessment centers based on the results that you, for example, get from an AI analysis beforehand. Maybe you can quickly explain what you are doing here, and then we maybe jump in the questions.
Yes. So in this process that we are building, we want to add value on things that currently our clients do not have time to do. And there is a part of preparation. This part where, based on the result of previous interviews with the candidate that can be shared by the client, or just discussion we have with the hiring manager, we should be able to modify our current business case, making them more tailored to the questions our hiring manager can have, or the HR can have, based on the previous interviews they had. Meaning we could create, based on hypotheses, dedicated business case that fit either the position for all the candidates, or really at the candidate level. Adding this layer, making sure that some uncertainties can be really addressed directly during the business case, based on some slight modification that will force the candidate to jump on specific skills or specific notions or specific opinions that were discussed during previous interviews. So AI on this is very interesting, because if you have the right background and if you have the right support and tool, you can really create customized experience for all the candidates, for all the positions, while keeping I would say the core of your own business case or activity. To give you a very simple example, we have one business case. This business case is used for leadership position because it's tackle a lot of things regarding entrepreneurship, conflict management, etc., etc. And the idea in the future would be to keep this business case, but have it adapted in terms of what this leader that we want to hire or what this position should achieve within the 5 coming years. And so we can tweak the business case to make sure that there is this area of forcing the candidate to provide us this 5 years view on the business case, seeing how they do, when they present it, when they challenge it, when we challenge them, and etc. So yes, AI, even for the preparation part, is going to be a huge support when it comes to customize the candidate experience for us as assessors, but also for, I would assume, all the talent acquisition journey.
Yeah. It is, I think, a big advantage, so that you can be much more or much better prepared for the interviews, for the assessment centers, if you have already beforehand some more objective insights into what to talk about. That is also an observation what we see within our clients. That they decide in the beginning was more like use it like an assessment center, for the final candidates, to check, okay, is there something within the personality or in these reports that might cause a risk, or where's no fit. We have some questions about how to make sure if it's a fit for the culture or not. And we see more and more that organizations start using our technology much earlier in the process. So after they checked for the CV or had a first skill-based interview, they immediately use it, because they say it's, for us, it's always frustrating if we really guide people or run people through this whole process, maybe send them to an assessment center to learn at the end of the day from the 3 candidates that we are focusing on, maybe 1 or 2 are really not the fit, or maybe will not bring this flexible mindset, this resilience, or maybe are too manipulative or too self-centered. And that is always kind of frustrating for them, because then they said, if we would have known this earlier, we could have focused on maybe another candidate. So that is something we see a tendency, use it early in the process for pre-selection, plus using the results, as you mentioned it, to formulate better questions, to have maybe better hypotheses that you would like to challenge during the sessions. And that is absolutely a point, or second point, what you mentioned, is the point of usability. For sure, if you have experienced assessors, they know what to do. They can explain the results. They see, they know what to look at. And then it's also maybe the last slide before we jump into the Q&A. What we found very interesting. Even if we know that just based on the numbers, they are talking about the validity, etc., why, in this sense, weaker methods continue to dominate. Also kind of unstructured interviews, and it's really from a business perspective, and you're also in this field. We see that there are 4 big reasons. So practicality and familiarity. So if a company is used to run a process for several years like this, it's always hard to change it, because they're used to do it. It's kind of checking the resumes. It's simple, flexible, cost efficient. And I think point 3, the validity. So that we as decision makers, and I can also say it from my perspective, even if we had the results, when we hired people, in 3 cases also within Sortify, we overestimated ourselves as founders within the interviews with our leadership potential. Saying, okay, we know based on the data, we know based on the reports that this might not be a fit for our company. And we decided against. That was in the early days of Sortify. Today, we really rely every time on our report. And the last point is, and that is also what we see in the discussions with clients, the focus on the scientific orientation. So that especially understandability and also is it easy, is it practical to use? Not only for the recruiters, also for the hiring managers. Do they understand the results within the first glimpse? That this is much more valued than if there's really a scientific foundation behind. And that is something what is explains a bit also the use of these methods. And that is also kind of our ambition, to develop AI that is both scientifically founded or grounded, plus that we make it easy to use and make it fun to use and really accessible for everyone. And with this, make it accessible, this round here, we have already some questions. Maybe we can jump in. I see Maike asks, how can we deduce skills and competencies from personality traits? From our perspective, when talking about traits like the Big Five personality inventory, it's more like how much energy you have to put on, to fulfill tasks, fulfill roles, fulfill skills that are maybe on the opposite side of the dimension where you score high. So if you are someone who's very flexible, showing rather low scores in conscientiousness, it doesn't mean that you cannot find within the Excel file the mistake in these hundreds of lines. But it just means that it costs you more energy and more attention to really perform this over a longer time. What we see, especially when it comes to the entrepreneurial capital, like meable, more trainable psychological resources, we know from all the science and the meta studies that there are direct correlations to authentic leadership, organizational citizenship behavior, learning approaches, etc. So hard skills, I would say it's very hard. We know from the Big Five that there are kind of slight tendencies. But we would not immediately say, okay, someone scores low, for example, in extroversion, and that means that automatically these skills are coming with this profile. Do we have another opinion on this, Nicolas, or what is your point?
No, I am quite aligned here. One point though is personality traits will give you indicators, but not indicators to take a decision, indicators to ask the right questions. You can have introvert people. You are not, if you take the definition, the full definition of introverts and the researches, maybe you will take some assumption that maybe this person will not be a good federator, which is not true. So actually personality traits, especially from MBTI, Sortify, they are there to give a position for the assessor to ask the right question and for the candidate to understand how they would react with other personalities. And all of this must be considered. If you take just a personality test and personality traits as the foundation of the skills of someone, the risk there is that you miss something, and sometimes it can be something very important for the position in which you see the candidate.
Yeah, there's also 2 points on this. The one point talking about introverts, kind of this that there's kind of discrimination in the sense within classical setups. There's an interesting study, we can also share this later on from the US, where they analyzed C-levels, mostly CEOs from publicly listed companies. And they found out that the ones with more introvert CEOs performed in the midterm and long term better than the ones with the very extroverted CEOs. Kind of interesting study, because it's a bit against very often the assumptions that we have when we observe and talk about confidence instead of extroversion. And I think there was also a point that Tobias, no, there was a question about how to combine it. So I think it's quite clear that with what we are doing, it's psychological diagnostic, that covers one part of the selection process. So we would never ever claim for us that's the only thing that you should look at. So please don't get me wrong. But it covers a big part that normally takes more time, more attention, and is more prone to, let's say, biases. So because we cannot assess in objective way as humans the personality, or especially things like the counterproductive tendencies. So Daddy AI has definitely advantages, because it doesn't matter how old you are, how you look like, how you speak, how you behave, are you nervous while talking or not. So there's really a huge advantage to make it way more objective. Lucas is asking, do you have different norm groups built in to compare results against different levels? Individual contributor, first line leader, senior. Yes, there are different groups that you can compare your results with. Mike is asking, is there any experience with using AI to analyze, for example, a feedback conversation conducted with an avatar? So part of the assessment would be a critical conversation, but instead of doing a typical role play, you talk to an avatar, and your conversation is evaluated by an AI. Have you ever experienced something like this, Nicolas?
I have seen it in a lot of from some providers, potential providers. They were showing me this area. If I take my view on this, for me, the exercise of a role play, and specifically the discussion that you take during the assessment center for it, is to really connect to people's emotions. So for me, for now, I do not have found an AI where the conversation, we can create emotions on both sides to arrive to a compromise or to arrive to a solution. But it exists. There are solutions today where you can have a conversation with an avatar, and the conversation is analyzed, and then you receive some feedbacks if you are the hiring manager or the hiring HR recruiter. I do believe on my side that the value of a role play is to put the candidate in a challenging situation where they need to do the compromise between the emotion of others, their emotion, and the ability to apply the skills they believe they have. And I think today AI is not there yet to create this idea where you have you play a N-1 that is desperate because of a situation, a conflict, a transformation, and really all the arguments of this person will be purely emotional. And you as a manager, as the candidate, but playing the manager or the director, you need to calm the person. You need to make them in a situation to find a solution, to reconnect them, to re-engage them. And I do believe today that this is something where even I would say a candidate would feel more comfortable doing it with another human, because one day when they will have to handle conflict, it will not be with the AI avatar, it will be with other people.
Yeah. Until now, we are working, most of us are still working with other humans, and maybe an avatar is more predictable than the humans around us. So it makes also sense to use this to learn a bit more about yourself. There's a question about if we experience that candidates use AI generated answers to open text questions, for example, in our tools, yes, absolutely. That is something what we see. And the interesting thing is, that mostly the results that people produce with these generative AI tools, and we experiment very much with this. So we generated thousands of synthetic data sets to test, to play around. And it's quite interesting. For example, in the entrepreneur capital, we see that you are not producing high scores, for example, because it's an average what the AI is normally producing. It's a general trained model, so it's not going for the extremes. And on the other hand is that we also have models in place that allow us to detect if an answer was produced by a generative AI. We still have the self-assessment plus the open text answers. Yeah, we also give out the open text answers. I can share this for 1 second. So that is kind of the results. There was also a question, how does the process look like? You as a user, you get access to a dashboard where you can always send out the links, where you can say, okay, what reference group do you need? What languages do you need? Do you want to have the counterproductive tendencies included or excluded? So that is complete up to you who should receive the results. That's a dashboard where you can create these links, and then you send these links to the candidates or into your systems to provide the candidate with the link. And then the candidate can fill out this link whenever they want to. So that's also kind of very time efficient for you. And then we report, as mentioned before, this pure self-assessment, that's the gray bars, plus the AI score. Yeah, so where we analyze the self-assessment, plus we analyzed the text answers of the candidate. And then we compare how did the person answer in the self-assessment part, and how does the person answered in the open text questions. And then the AI says, okay, normally people that express themselves in a way like this, or they talk about like this, it's really about the meaning of what they are saying. They score maybe higher or lower than the person reports about themselves. So here you see, for example, an excitement seeking, there the AI sees maybe a bit more impulsivity than the person itself. Yeah. So, and that is definitely something what we are permanently working on. So this week we launched a new assessment platform where we really can track all these things. In the future, you could, for example, think in the direction that when from specific positions on, that we can record the screen, that you switch on the cameras, etc. So it's a platform that allows exactly to deal with this, that there's more generative AI out there. And it's a bit like a mouse and cat game, who's faster in making sure that the AI really is able to detect this. Yeah, and that maybe also gives kind of Sonia, you asked how does the process or the method look like as described. Yeah, you have an access to a dashboard where you can create a link, where you can send it out to the candidate. And then from there on, everything runs complete automated. You receive the result if you want that the candidate receives the result. And duration-wise, I would say between 30 and 45 minutes it takes to fill this report. Now, it always depends a bit how much people are used to reflect on themselves, used to answer open text questions, etc. What other questions do we have? Is there? Yes, Jan posted this. So whenever you want to learn more about this tool, to test it for your positions, to really dive in, please check in with Jan for a call. We also share the studies. Maybe Jan, you can post the studies, the white paper, plus also, and that's a point, also from the business side, Nicolas, you notice, and we also experience with you guys, talking about EU AI Act. Yeah, so making sure where's the data coming from, where's it processed, who's the final decision maker. So that are really, we always say the marriage vows. The date vow is okay. We can assess these psychological dimensions within minutes, and more objective than the one or the other assessment center. And then on the next point, it's really like, is this technology really usable for us? And there you really have to tick a lot of boxes, a lot of Excel files with questions. Where's the data hosted? Where's it processed? When is it deleted? And all these things that are regulated by ISO certifications, by the European AI, by GDPR. So here we also will share these documents for you. And yes, Sonja, we also share the slides. Are there more questions from your side? Is someone there who has a final question, something you would like to share? Anything that is unclear? If not, I would like to ask Nicolas. So what's your point? The future of assessment center. We have 2025. The AI is developing faster and faster. What would you say is the future?
The future of assessment center for me will be that you will use AI for the area and the parts in which you feel comfortable with in terms of data decision, but you will always keep a human in the loop in the end of the day. So there will be still assessment centers where people are meeting other people and we put them in situations. So the future of assessment center will be that we spend more time on human touch, on human added value, and we will spend more time, we will using AI and spend more time into building the profile we are looking for. Basically, the future of assessment center is creating the candidate, building the candidate ability to be trusted by their hiring manager, by the HR, by the growth we expect the candidate to have within the organization. Where on the other hand, the human assessor will not disappear and will be there to really make sure that the data we collect with the AI and the discussion we had during the assessment days are, well, I would say consistent and aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from also what I learned from you and our conversations, and also from the one or the other partner that is in the audience. I would say with AI, we really can democratize kind of the quality of parts of assessment centers. Yeah. So to make it really scalable and companies a bit more independent. But, and that's the point what I learned also today, for specific part, it absolutely makes sense to bring really expertise to the table. Yeah. Nevertheless, I like to challenge, and my last question is: so you are not afraid that AI is taking over the whole assessment world?
No, because consulting firms and professional services are there to complement something that can be missing within a process, no matter what is the project there and the service there. Assessment centers, as they are built now, they are complementing something that exists, which is the talent acquisition process. And we want a service professional to put the stamps or to have an external eye or to remove any bias. And those elements for now, even though one day maybe they will be replaced by AI, they are not there yet. And assessors, they will be there also to create autonomy for organizations, making them equipped with solutions like Zortify, for example, making sure that if we are not relevant, us as assessors, the client will be equipped to be able to take over the process. So I don't think it's going to disappear. I do believe that it will take really decades before we don't really use professional services for assessment centers to give this external eye. But if the day comes, we will be there to support the client in this decision and to make them more autonomous for this.
So from what I understand, it's a perfect combination to have this AI layer within the organizations to help them to make better decisions, or for every level, and then increase, let's say, the human interaction part. The more important the decision is, and I think it's the best of both worlds, and therefore we are very excited with what lies ahead, also with you guys. And with this, thank you very much for everyone who participated today. And if there are questions, just let us know. Get in touch with us. Get also in touch with Nicolas. We are in the after mail. We send you the summarization of this session today, also with the slides. And Nicola, if okay for you, we also share your contact data so that you can immediately get in touch also with Nicola, and if there are more questions to be answered. Yeah. So thank you very much. It was great to have you all, and thank you for these great questions. And Nicola, thank you for your time. It was really cool. Tom, that was raising hands, or you wanted to do an applause? We take both. Cool. Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.